Alright, so the Spirit told me to make this video. It's going to help a lot of people. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods, who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses, who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol, cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." So the next day the people rose early and sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings. Afterward they sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed it to it and have said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.' I have seen these people," the Lord said to Moses, "and they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so that my anger may burn against them and that I may destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation." But Moses sought the favor of the Lord, his God. "Lord," he said, "why should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, 'It was with evil intent that he brought them out to kill them in the mountains and to wipe them off the face of the earth?' Why should the Egyptians say?" "Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, to whom you swore, 'By your own self I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give your descendants all this land I promised them, and it will be their inheritance forever.' Then the Lord relented and did not bring on his people the disaster he had threatened. He said to Aaron, 'What did these people do to you, that you led them into such great sin?' 'Do not be angry, my lord,' Aaron answered. 'You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, "Make us gods who will go before us." As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him.' So I told them." Moses saw that the people were running wild and that Aaron had let them get out of control and so become a laughing stock to their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites rallied to him. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says." And all the Levites rallied to him. That's very important. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Each man strap a sword to his side. Go back and forth through the camp from one end to the other, each killing his brother and friend and neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded, and that day about 3,000 of the people died. Then Moses said, "You have been set apart to the Lord today." For you were against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day. The Lord replied to Moses, Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go, lead the people to the place I spoke of, and my angel will go before you. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin. And the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf Aaron had made. Then the Lord said to Moses, Leave this place, you and the people you brought up out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. Now, why is that important? Using the words, as I always do, that the Spirit tells me to say, I'm going to say. It was not only the tribes of Israel that were brought out of Egypt. There were Egyptians, there were Hittites, Hivites, all kinds of different people with different belief systems. And after the waters were parted, they had debates on which one of their gods got them out. Even though they had Moses right there and all of those amazing things, an idol was given credit for. But why this is important is you have to understand the mission of Jesus Christ. And one thing that Jesus Christ did and said was when he was talking to Pharisees, he would ask them, what is your lineage? And they would say, we are children of Abraham. And Jesus Christ would say, from which tribe? Now this is important because it's messianic prophecy that the Messiah would come from a certain tribe. So when I was sitting down with the messianic friend of mine, we discussed these things. And what happened was when God would choose a high priest from a certain tribe, people would remove that high priest and they would place somebody in that place. But God did not honor that. So Jesus Christ was heir to the throne as well as, and is, as well as the rightful high priest. So Jesus Christ had his apostles, the Pharisees had theirs, and you could see two different high priests. So Jesus Christ always said, my mission is for the lost sheep of Israel. They were among the poor and the broken because they were being punished. And then Jesus Christ extended the gates of heaven to anyone who wanted to be God's chosen people. Why is this important? This is important because if you read in the scriptures, it says during the last days, people will be allowed to believe a lie. As I've always looked at a kingdom as not to subjugate and not to rule by force or fear. I always looked at it like, if you want to be part of my kingdom, we have the law, God's commandments. That's it. And then the Holy Spirit. And one thing that's being taught that the Spirit wanted me to address is unless the writings testify and teach the Holy Spirit, the creation of the Holy Spirit, equaling let us make man in our image, it can never make sense. Because it does not fulfill the law and it does not fulfill the purpose of this book. Why is this the true Bible? Because it says, but what you have in here is a collection of real life events that equate to what human beings call history. And then other people have always used this to justify their means. But there's one Holy Spirit in constant communion with itself. Me. So, one thing I was trying to teach Moses was you don't know what intercession is. You don't know what mediation is. I'm teaching you to be grateful that you won't have to do what I did. And that's perfect love. I'm not going to attempt to top that. The messianic prophecies dictate that I take the place of high priest and that I have a kingdom that is everlasting and with no end. And one thing that I would impress upon the Pharisees, because a lot of Pharisees liked me, a lot of Pharisees learned from me. They weren't allowed to say it out loud, but they demonstrated a appreciation for the things that I was teaching because they understood that it was already known my lineage. That was fact. Everybody kept trying to ignore that point, but it was already known. I fulfill and fulfilled the prophecies. It became, well, what is he going to do and what does he want? Because I had no interest in being like what human beings were doing. I still don't. I was interested in fulfilling my promises and making a way for people to see the kingdom of heaven and be happy. That was my primary mission. So the Pharisees were actually split. I split that entire faction down the middle. And a lot would defend me, but they had to do it in a certain way, because if you showed me any support, you would be disavowed. So they didn't really do too much of that, but I knew their hearts and I liked them tremendously. And I used to love to sit down and learn with them. We would have the Holy Spirit speaking through both of us if they were from the right lineage. So it was easy for me to know my own, and my own knew me. And then 40 years later, everything I prophesied occurred. So history always reflects my words. Jesus Christ existed long before Jerusalem. So when I was in Egypt, it was kind of like, all right, I remember the pyramids. I know why they're created. And I learned a lot in Egypt. Different philosophies, different cultures, different things. But if it went against the law, I instantly rejected it. There were so many teachings and ideas, let there be light. The Spirit would always tell me, this is your throne. You are from the correct lineage. But this is how we're going to run it. So this is important because what happened to the Levites and those that have lineage to the 12 tribes is they were scattered throughout the earth. And this is important because of the scriptures and revelation that have been fulfilled. It's not important to make anyone look bad or make people feel less, because anybody that has the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, is royalty. They are God's chosen people, clearly, if they were given and have been given His Spirit. They never go backwards. That is communion with the living God. Everything is perfect poetry. Everything connects. So when you're reading this book, understand that other books use this book there is a cycle of truth that always floods the earth. And it gives people a chance to come to the truth, which sets them free from themselves. The truth is, you have to be where you're supposed to be, and you have to do what you're supposed to do in order to be happy. That's how my kingdom is run. It's invisible, It is a spiritual kingdom. The evidence being different emotions, and then the manifestation of God's favor in your life. Just all right. That's all the Spirit wanted me to say. I love you.